Welcome along to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. I'm Raf Diallo alongside Ed Leahy from RTÉ Sport Online. Today we'll be looking back at the weekend's action domestically, and also we'll be chatting a little bit about the Manchester derby. And to do that, we're joined by League and Cup winners Ollie, Cahill and Graham Gartland. Lads, welcome along. How are you going?
Oh, good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was just saying at the top before we started, I think it's some sort of Drogheda United reunion here. I think this is the first time you've probably been on the same team since 2008, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we're just saying two good years. Well, it was supposed to be the first year I was there. Obviously, Graham had been there a few years before. We won the league, and the Southampton Cup was great. And then obviously things went a bit astray in my second season there. But our fond memories of it. It's a great club, and had some great times. And sharing the dressing room with the likes of Graham and a few others, Stephen Bradley and Brian Shelley. We had a great squad, and I look back fondly on that time.
And Graham, you've just been given a good talk up and build up there. Any kind of stories about Ollie that you can remember from your time together?
Ollie just came in. Ollie had a presence about him that he still has to this day. That even when you knew what he'd done in his career, but when he spoke, you sort of leaned in to listen. And in fairness to him, he used to we sat beside each other in the dressing room, and he'd whisper stuff to me, and then I'd say it out, and then we'd go, there's an awful smell in this corner, and he'd go, that's success, Graham. And I'd go, yeah. And then I'd say it, and then I'd look like I was the big time one when it was probably Ollie underneath it all. So he used, but there was a couple of times he tutted me, and I know it went a bit too far there or something. But yeah, he was. We had a lot of good times actually. He was. He's a good singer as well, Ollie. He's he gives off this persona that he's the model pro, and he was the old pro we called him, but he was he knew how to let his curly hair down every now and then.
Good stuff. One thing we're going to be chatting a bit about, obviously, with the Manchester derby across the water, but then also Pats versus Shamrock Rovers kind of being the big game on Friday that we will chat about. Obviously, Ed Leahy was there for us, and obviously Bows and Rovers coming up as well this Friday. The whole team of derbies, you've played in a lot of them, obviously. What mindset would you have gone into them with?
Yeah, it's probably, you try to treat it like any other game, but in fairness, it probably isn't any other game. There's that little bit extra riding on it. And the minute you step onto the pitch, you can feel it in the atmosphere. It is different. And look, if you can't lift yourself to playing those games as a player, you can forget about it. They're the games you want to be involved in. Where the crowd's on top of you, it's packed. There's a lot riding on the game. No matter what position the two teams are in the league, I said there's still a hell of a lot riding on it. So I say, look, they're the games you want to play. Used to love it. I've played in it for both sides, and it's when you lose, it's awful. When you win, it's great. I can remember Gary Twigg scoring 2 goals late on in Tala against Bows, and it was bedlam. I think people that left the ground before it finished thinking we'd lost 1-0, and we ended up winning 2-1, and it was, I can still remember that. You get a tingle now even thinking about it. So it was, they're great games to be involved in. Looking, if you come out on top, it's fantastic, and it's bragging rights for the fans and everything that goes with it.
And Graham, any big kind of derby memories that kind of jump out when that word comes up first? Is there anything what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Probably not very fond memories, actually. I think we lost the Bohemians at Dalymount 4-0, and it was a horrific evening. I know I made a mistake for the first goal, but yeah, it was just a build-up. I was just so looking forward to them. I've been to watch so many, and then you go and try to play in them, and like you said, it was all the pressures on one team. That's probably the team that's successful at the time, and they're expected to go in and win the game. And then the other, at the time, we were defending champions with Shamrock Rovers, and then we turn up to Dalymount, and everybody, the whole expectation is on us, and they sort of get a free hit at you. But like Ollie said, it's about handling it, but also embracing it, and as long as you're not trying to be too measured about your approach and treat it like another game, because it's not, but then also get too excited about it. You sort of have to go with the occasion at times, play on adrenaline at times, and then calm it down when you need to. And that just comes with experience of playing in them. And the more games, the more derbies you play in, the more sort of you get used to them, and you can get through them or try and be as successful in them as you can be, really.
Yeah. Now we'll be going through the results now from the weekend. Of course, St. Pat's versus Shamrock Rovers was one of those kind of local derbies. But over the weekend, it was Finn Harps 1, Bohemians 1 on Friday night, Shelbourne 0, Derry City 1, Drogheda United 4, UCD 2, and obviously, as I said, St. Pat's 1, Shamrock Rovers 0, and Sligo Rovers 0, Dundalk 0. Now, before we get into it, we'll just listen to Tim Clancy. We'll listen to Stephen Bradley a little bit later on, but first, Tim Clancy, St. Pat's manager, on his side's narrow victory.
We knew Shamrock Rovers in the last 2 seasons, the way they've won the league at Cantor, really, and in the President's Cup they beat us there recently in a really good game of football. And our last 2 performances last weekend and over the 4 days we were sort of disappointed with, but I think we showed a different side of us that we can dig in and we can grind out a result as well. And I thought the 2 centre backs were excellent, every ball into the box, energy in the middle of the pitch with Chris Forrester and Adam O'Reilly. And listen, Chris pops up with a well-renowned header from a corner, but no, listen, we'll take it. It's a great way to bounce back after disappointing the last 2 results.
Adam in midfield for you tonight was a revelation.
Yeah, Adam has loads of energy as well, and he's been a little bit frustrated with the first few games. He's come on a couple of them, but again, energy-wise, that's what Adam brings to you. And we knew as soon as he was going to get into the team that he was going to do well, so we were delighted with him. Obviously, Billy King as well. Dara Burns was excellent tonight. Mark Doyle, Owen Doyle. So I think the whole team really put a shift in. And listen, we were delighted to turn a bad weekend last week to a good weekend this week.
Dara Burns, he's electric at times. I mean, the potential that young man has, how far can he go in the game?
Dara's brilliant. He's got so much potential as well, but we've got to realise he's only 19. He's still very, very young, and he'll have games like last week. The 2 games he probably didn't get the best performance out of him, but then again tonight you've seen him when he's positive with his first touch and when he takes players on. It's not just great for us as a squad and a team, it's brilliant for the fans as well to look at a player being that exciting and trying things. And I think it's going to be a very big season for Dara. And listen, he was excellent today for the 75 minutes or so he was on.
Stephen Kenny was here, obviously trying to assess the talent on both sides, but is Dara one for the future for him, do you think?
I think, listen, Dara has to just concentrate on playing every week in the first team here at Pats, and I've no doubt that the potential Dara has and the ability that he can go to a very high level. You'd probably be looking at maybe the 21s possibly getting into that squad soon, and if he performs there and keeps performing and improving as a young player, I'm sure that he will catch the eye, because he was certainly glimpses tonight of his ability and how good he is for us.
All right, that was St. Patrick's Athletic manager Tim Clancy after the 1-0 win. Chris Forrester scored the goal on 54 minutes from a header from set piece. Ed, as I said, you were there, and obviously going into that game, Pats were under pressure, obviously losing two games in a row and off the back of a really good start to the season. The way they did it, and I suppose the atmosphere as well that came into it, as was mentioned in the interview with Tony there, did it all kind of feed into the performance?
Well, just listen there, I suppose I wouldn't have agreed now that it was a game of high quality or there was anything necessarily that would Stephen Kenny have him, jumping to recruit. Obviously, Jack Byrne was back playing the full game, which was showing that he is back and he's coming back to his best, which is very encouraging. But Tony's right about the atmosphere at the place. It was a real occasion. I wouldn't really put it in the derby category, but it's certainly a game of 2 teams putting themselves there as champion contenders. The game started off quickly, but Rovers controlled it then, the tempo of the first half especially, and there was chances, but they weren't like clear cut, too many of them. There were chances to get in ahead at the break and stuff, and maybe not as Stephen Bradley would have said, which had chances to have the game won by half time. But the second half, again, look, Pat's got the goal and held on. And it was interesting to see a game where you're sort of looking for the stand up, I suppose you're looking for that sort of showdown between Chris Forrester and Jack Byrne as to who was the influential player on the pitch. And while Chris didn't do much in terms of influencing play, he got the goal and he got it from a corner, and he worked his socks off, and it shows he's the player at the moment who's really just doing it at all levels, and he's really back to where he was even back, when he was really at his peak at Peterborough. So yeah, so it was a great occasion. It keeps St. Pat's, right there as contenders. So it'll be interesting to see if they can maintain that crowd at Richmond Park when the likes of UCD, Finn Harps, and other teams come, because the team will need that if they want to stay in the hunt. They'll need that atmosphere.
Yeah, and Graham, last week we were chatting to Paul Corrie about the defensive issues that Pats had in the 2 defeats, and kind of long balls down the middle, essentially cutting them open, and albeit they were always narrow defeats. But looking at the way they performed against Shamrock Rovers and the way they kind of held out, especially defensively, I imagine Tim Clancy must be pleased. Like, what did you notice about the way they that the back four performed?
Probably didn't have to defend as many long balls against Rovers because they play a different way. So they were able to sort of go into it, especially second half. I thought they defended really well, but they got a lot of bodies back behind the ball and forced Rovers to try and play wide, especially probably out to Shamrock Rovers left, because they knew that it'd have to come back inside because Andy Lyons is a right footer. So it buys you a couple of seconds to get across the pitch when you're forcing them out onto that side, knowing there's a right footer on the left. Redmond done really well again, but a lot of the games in front of them with Shamrock Rovers, and they're trying to break it down and trying to probe with some really top quality players. And at a tight pitch at Richmond, you can hold out against that a little bit more. I agree. I didn't think it was an overly great game. I didn't think it was anything that you go, that was a great. It was more of an occasion with the crowd in. Rovers brought a great crowd as well. These are the games that Pats didn't win last season. They lost last year to Richmond to a 91st minute winner from Danny Mandroyu. They hadn't beaten Rovers all last year, even though they were their closest challengers. And again, I keep saying it, if you're going to try and take something off somebody, you have to beat them. And they done it. It was actually a really big win, because I think if they lose it, it's a tough ask for them to try and win the league. So they would have been on 3 points from 12, which wouldn't have been a great start. Now they're on 6 from 12, and it gives them a little bit of they're level on points with Shamrock Rovers. But Ollie knows this better than me, because he's probably won the league a ridiculous amount of times. But the game, it doesn't really settle down until after the first 10 games. You'll see where squads are, you'll see where teams are, suspensions kick in, injuries kick in. So again, it was a big game in terms of the Pats not being out of it. But it's interesting to see how the league will settle down after the first series of games.
Yeah, and Ollie, kind of going forward, Dara Burns was name checked there. Obviously, Stephen Kenny in the crowd, and there's that. I suppose there's that kind of discussion there of maybe players that might be looked at in terms of widening the Irish squad. I don't think Burns is really in that category yet, but in terms of his potential, like, how far can he go? Because Clancy seems very positive about the kind of level he can reach at his best.
Yeah, I'd be excited by him, to be honest. I think there could be a lot riding on his shoulders there at Pat. Ed mentioned Forrester, who's we all know about his quality, but Dara is really coming into his own. Cracking goal on the first night of the season against Shells. Tim alluded to it there, maybe a couple of disappointing performances, but I thought he was good the other night without being brilliant. But what I liked about him, he identified Andy Lyons obviously is playing on the wrong side. He went down the outside of him, he came inside as well on him, and I think he's an exciting talent. Again, you don't want to heap too much on him too soon, and obviously Tim is playing it down. And yeah, look, he wouldn't be in the frame for getting into senior international squads just yet, but I'm sure he'd be well capable of making the step up into under 21 international and beyond. Then he's still learning the game. He's got a long way to go, but what I've seen of him so far, like this season and last season, I would be excited by him. And I think the Pats players and fans should be looking to him to spark off a lot of things for them. Just once he's able to take it all in his stride and say not let it get to him too much. But he's one to watch for sure.
And what did you make of Adam O'Reilly's performance?
Yeah, he impressed me too. Again, Tim said it there, lots of energy, got around, got into things, got stuck in. Maybe, with Forrester next to him there, some of the stuff he's doing allows Forrester to maybe do a bit more of what he likes to do. But they seem to complement each other well. And, fair play to Tim, putting him in there. But I think he responded to it. And in general, for Pats, it was a huge win. And I see the way at the end of the game, Tim seemed quite pumped up as well, and he was going to the Pats fans and geeing them up at the end. So it meant a lot to him. But I think the way the game panned out and the way they won it meant a lot to all the players and to the team. And as Graham said, that's a huge win for them, just to keep them tipping away on the back of two poor defeats, and to beat Rovers is big for them. And it's they'd be looking just to kick on from there now. But as I say, just the way they were at the end, you can see what a lift it gave them. And look, everyone wants to beat Rovers. There's a big target on their backs now. They know that. Rovers know that. So every game they go into, that's what they're going to be facing. So when they do get turned, it was the same in Derry. That was a last minute winner, and the way that see the lift it gave the whole Derry team and squad. Not a great game again. To say not a great game on Friday, I thought, but a huge win for Pats, and that can really galvanise them.
Yeah, and a disappointing defeat for Shamrock Rovers, 2 away defeats to start the season. So we'll listen to Stephen Bradley now. He was also speaking to Tony afterward.
I think tonight we were very good. I think tonight we were very, very good. Probably the best we've been in a few months, to be honest. We look back to ourselves. We created 13, 14 chances to their 1. 9 times out of 10 you win the game with that. Disappointed obviously the goal we gave away, but tonight we were good, very good.
Atmosphere was terrific. Another sold-out Dublin derby. I suppose that probably helped St. Pat's in the end, did it?
They had something to hang on to. Of course, you're home. The crowd are gonna help you. Like I said, they had something to hang on to. But I thought we were good tonight.
So, to what do you put down the defeat?
One set play. We need to look back and see where was it, a block or what was it. But one set play. That was it. Other than that, they had a long shot from Chris Forrester. There was nothing else. We controlled the game, dominated the game. And another night, the game's over at half time when you look at the chances we had. Like I said, it's very easy because you had the result, you lose the game. Very easy to be critical, but tonight I thought we were very good.
You used all your bench in the end, and people have been lauding the fact that you have such a talented bench. But is that an issue for you in terms of trying to find the right balance?
No, we know our balance. I don't understand that argument. We know our balance. We're fine. We're happy with the group. We're happy with the squad. There's no issues with our balance or how we play. I think it's clear for everyone to see if you watch the game tonight who the dominant team were.
Jack Byrne played for just under an hour on Monday against Drogheda. Played the full 95, 96 minutes tonight. How do you think he did?
I thought he was very good. Very good. You see some of the things he did, some of the passes he played in the first half to get us in on goal. Very, very good. And it's like I said, it's his 4th game in a year, so he's still getting there. But tonight, it was the best he's been this year.
But there are going to be so many of these Dublin derbies this year. Does it add an extra sort of spice to it? Yeah,
but that's part of it. That's part of the league. That's why it's harder for Dublin teams to win, because of the Dublin derbies. But it's great. You see the atmosphere here tonight. We have another one on Friday, which is great. And like I said, if we perform like that, 9 times out of 10 you'll win the game. So perform like that, and we're still getting there. We're happy.
All right, that was Shamrock Rovers manager Stephen Bradley after that defeat to St. Patrick's Athletic. Ed, obviously you were in the stands, as we said, and in terms, obviously Stephen Bradley is accentuating the positives there, but in terms of the mood in general in the stadium, especially among the away support, was there more of that sense of disgruntlement just off that one-off result, or any kind of sign of kind of major concern from the fans?
No, I don't. It's too early for disgruntlement. You just won back-to-back league titles. Any fan who's grumbling at this stage needs to take a good look at themselves in the mirror. But there are a few. Don't worry. There are a few who would be. But look, I think it boils down to it was just interesting what Stephen said to Tony there, because he said the same to myself after the game when I sort of asked him where he was in terms of his squad and his ideal 11, I suppose. And the lads alluded to it earlier. Like when you're playing a right-footed player at left back, it's given teams a little bit of an advantage, just a slight advantage to help cope with what Rovers bring to the team. And like with Jack coming back, he's back to his full fitness now. But the team are a different team since Jack went, and Stephen does need to work out what to do, how to get the best out of Jack Byrne, and how to get who are the best players to play around him, because it's no doubt Jack will be the player to influence this season. But players like Dylan Watts have come on since Jack left. New players have come in like Danny. You've got Barry Cutter there, who's sitting on the bench. Graham Burke sitting on the bench. Two players who looked like they were full of energy when they came running on with a point to prove. So obviously, of course, Stephen knows his players. He knows each. But I think while he says he's happy with the squad and the players, I think there's probably still a bit of working out to do in that sense. I was just interested with Stephen. He comes out and he sort of makes sense of the he sort of works out in his head that they had the chances to win the game. They had enough possession to win the game, and 9 times out of 10 they would win the game, but they didn't win the game. And so I'm sort of interested in Stephen's mindset, if he can just sort of park it on that basis. And someone like Graham would know him a lot better than I would in that sense. So, I wonder, is he fuming with that, in the fact that he lost 3 points there while dominating the player, or does he just have the belief that over the season the best team will win it? So it's very early doors, but that's just the one thing I was curious about Stephen as to how it affects him. We saw Conte the other day saying he can't talk to anyone for a full day after losing a game. So does Stephen park it as soon as he's had the chat with the lads, and do the lads in the dressing room not get the ire of losing a game? So it's just interesting, that sort of dynamic, but that's kept in the dressing room, and that's the way it's worked well from over 2 years. So it's just an interesting scenario.
Yeah, Graham, just on Ed's point there about how one handles it, because as he said, it's very early in the season probably to be kind of judging it, and there's a long way to go. They have the deepest squad. More than likely they'll get up and running properly as the season goes on. In terms of, would Stephen generally park those type of issues for now until maybe it gets to later in the season where there might be more concern?
I think a couple of things on it. Okay, he's playing Andy Lyons there, but Ferrugia got injured. He's not. That's as simple as that. Sean is injured, so it's necessity that he needs to do that. It's not a tactical thing that Stephen's trying to be overly clever here in it. It's just that's a tactical. That's something that's happened through injury. So his hands are sort of forced with that one. He came out after the President's Cup game where Pats were really good, and he was very critical of the performance. And he said we didn't deserve to win the game. It went to penalties, but it wasn't an acceptable performance. So he's well able to call out unacceptable performances. I think Stephen has always felt that if your performance and your levels are high, results will pan out over the course of the season and get them to where they need to be. So every manager and every coach takes defeats hard. And you can see them talking about it yesterday a lot in the UK, but it's the manner of it. Like he said, Stephen likes to control the game. He likes his teams to control the ball. He likes them to control the opposition by having possession of the ball. So I don't think he'd be overly analytical in terms of being too hard on it. I think you feel with more control of that game than we did at the President's Cup game, but we win the President's Cup game on penalties and we lose that to a set piece. You'd be disappointed that all the good work is probably undone by a set piece. And like you said, he'll go and look at that and analyse that. But he's very analytical, Stephen, and he's always looking for small margins and small edges. So I don't think he ever switches off and pushes a defeat away. But I don't think he does that with a win as well. When we've seen it with Pats, that he wasn't happy with the performance, but he made sure that he rectified that at the start of the season. So he would be very introspective in that sense. But like you said, as long as the performances with Shamrock Rovers are good, they're going to win more games than they lose. And like you said, you'll see after the 4 series of games, and that's when Rovers squad will really kick in, when you see that, like you said, Lennon's injured. I think Harkins is out for Derry as well, who's a big loss. These lads are very hard to replace, where Rovers have people ready to come in and replace injuries and suspensions.
And Graham, just on that point, in terms of the squad and having people to come in as the season goes on, does it make it a little bit easier then for Stephen Bradley to keep that squad happy? Because the likes of Graham Burke, who's been on the bench more often than not at the start of the season, and obviously we know he's a hugely talented player and international, but I guess is there that kind of scope that he's able to kind of just say it to them, like, over the season, you will get your opportunities?
That's 100%, Raf. And again, they're at the biggest club in the country. We've the best facilities in the country. So that's what comes with it. You can't just expect to have a top 11 and then go right. And that's the way it's going to work. That's not the way football is. And if you want to be competitive, and Rovers have an eye on probably trying to win as much as they can in this period of time, you're going to need a big squad. Again, myself and Ollie went through it. You'd look to the stand sometimes and be 4 or 5 lads not even stripped when it was only, I think, was it 16 subs, Ollie. So 16 players in your squad and the lads not even stripped. So that's the way it goes. And players just have to row in and know that you're going to get your opportunity, but be ready for that opportunity. And that's what Stephen's probably saying to them. Listen, there's going to be games that come around you're going to play in, you're going to be involved in, but be ready for it. And that's what comes with playing at a big club that's challenging for honours and obviously looking to have a big push in Europe as well.
And Ollie, obviously Rovers, as we've said, have the deepest squad, and you've talents like Jack Byrne and, as you said, Graham Burke to come on, kind of those players that are able to play behind a striker. But in terms of maybe, we've talked a bit about control there, but it's that step of making the most of that control and being able to score as many goals as possible. Is that still a bit of an issue, especially when it comes to centre forward?
Yeah, possibly. But as Graham said, they're obviously Rovers are a possession-based team, and I'm sure they're quietly confident, even from listening to Stephen there, if they keep playing that possession game and have that amount of possession, I'm sure they're confident that they will be able to open teams up and put the ball on the back of the net. I think Ed was saying there, they had a few chances, not majorly, maybe clear-cut chances. Finn had one in the first half, Gaffney as well got in, but I'd say there'd be no one pressing the panic button or at yet at Rovers saying, oh, we can't score goals or we can't do this or do that. And just even looking at Graham Burke has come on, I think in each game, he scored twice already. So it doesn't seem to be a problem with his attitude. He looked sharp again when he came on the other night. So I'm sure there's periods in the season where he'll play and others will be left out, and you go, that's Stephen Bradley's job to try and keep them all happy. A lot of the time it's not the 11 players that are playing, it's the other lads that you need to try and keep happy. But it looks like, they're all, they say when lads are coming on, they're up for it, they're keen. I think Dylan Watson up in Derry comes on and scores a goal, he's same thing. So the depth they have, you're looking at their bench, it's ridiculous really, and it's keeping them all happy. But it looks like Stephen's well able to do that. He can manage those lads, and they're all really good top pros. Again, as Graham said, they're at the best club in the country at the moment, best facilities. Sure, they'll just keep the head down and keep doing what they're doing. As I say, Stephen is positive there in his interview after. I wouldn't expect anything less, and he try and keep that positivity going into the big game coming up this week, and keep them going. What better way to bounce back from that than winning a big derby game? So I'm sure I say there won't be anyone too pressing the panic button or anything just yet there.
Yeah, as you said, there's a big game coming up, and Bohemians are coming into that after 1-1 draw at Finn Harps. So second half goals, Ryan Connolly of Harps equalising after Cherry scored an opener earlier in that second half. Ollie, just in terms of Bohs and how they're shaping up coming into this derby, what kind of shape are they in, or do you feel like can they match Shamrock Rovers? Because in these type of fixtures, you've played in them, it doesn't matter really where the clubs are at. Anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. I think Bohs will probably be happy enough unbeaten after 3 games. Although Cherry getting sent off, it's going to be a big loss. He's a handful. In fairness, he's a handful. Maybe Graham would have seen him playing as well. And as a centre half, he'd be in your face. He's got a couple of goals as well. Could have got a winner thump one off the crossbar as well on Friday night. So. And even when I saw him in last season, I know Georgie Kelly was the main man, but the bits I saw of him, he looks like he's a bit of rawness there, but got good potential and it would be a handful to play against. So he's going to be a big loss for them. But I say, look, they 3 games unbeaten. They had a good win against Pats, drew 2-2 with Dundalk. So I'm sure they'll be quietly confident, and they no more than Rovers, they love those derby games and going into those big games, and they've had a few great wins as well at Tallaght Stadium, so they'll be looking forward to it, and I'm sure they'll be confident enough, as I say, going into it on the back of their unbeaten start to the season.
Yeah, and as Ollie mentioned there, Promise Cherry, he's made a reasonable start to the season. Obviously, the red card is costly in terms of his availability for this Friday. But Graham, in terms of Bohs going forward? As you said, Georgie Kelly, he was brilliant last season, but he's obviously not there now. Do they have the tools going forward to hurt Rovers?
I agree with Ollie. I thought Promise has been excellent. He started the season really well. I seen him last season and I thought he was real handful. His willingness to actually run beyond people is very good as well. And he's timing them that he's willing to run the channels, but he's also willing to stand and hold the ball up and be a presence down the middle of the pitch. I think his second yellow card's a terrible decision. Like he just plants himself. He hasn't put his arm up. How would I give him a yellow card for that? I'd actually be embarrassed if I was the centre back to go down for that as well. Looking at him, I know he's been clever and he's been experienced and he gets him sent off, but I think he will be a big loss. I know he brought in Ryan Cassidy from Watford on loan, so it's a big game for him if he comes into play. In fairness to Dundalk, in fairness to Bohemians, they've had a really tough start. They've Dundalk, Pats and Finn Harps away, so to be unbeaten in at the start of the season is a great achievement for them. They've a good record against Shamrock Rovers last season, so it'll be interesting to see how they go and approach the game on Friday. But it makes for a great game. I think it's going to be a sellout. I think it's going to be a fantastic occasion. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'll be doing co-coms on that as well, Raf, so there's a bit of a plug.
Good stuff. Good to get that. That's more like myself on that first week that we were on this podcast together.
Well, plugging the life out of yourself, Raf.
Yeah, plugging the life out of myself. Yeah.
Just watch the action. Mute the.
People drifting off at about 9:15 there.
Yeah, Ed, in terms of derby narratives, obviously, we can't make match predictions or anything at this stage. But if I suppose in the world where maybe Bohemians win that fixture, and then what we've been talking about with Shamrock Rovers there, in terms of maybe not panicking at this stage, how does that narrative change? And I know we're the scribes here, Ed, so we kind of set the tone sometimes.
Well, I don't know, Raf, but listen, I think the vital thing is, Bohs will come to this game buoyed by the fact, as the lad said, they've had a good start to the season when people were writing them off before a ball had been kicked, with the players who've missed and lost. Of course, Omocheri would be a big loss because he not only is he a handful, he caused Rovers trouble anytime he plays against them. I think Stephen Bradley's side tend to try and take the derby element out of these games, when sometimes I think for the first 10-15 minutes they need to go out there and just match whatever scenario is going on the pitch, however Bohs kick into life with that sort of mad derby pace to it, buoyed on by a full house with a large travelling support. I think once Rovers can sort of match them in that sense, then they will naturally just set the tone and tempo of the game. And once they get through the first 15 minutes unscathed, I can see Rovers a much more Rovers-like performance at home with the quality when you're comparing the squads. Obviously, Keith Long knows exactly how to deal with these situations, so it'll be interesting to see how he sets his team up and who he sort of puts out there to nullify the Rovers attack. But it should be probably one-way traffic to a certain extent. But again, Rovers will need to make the chances and take them because Bohs will not stop for 90 minutes in this game.
Yeah, and before we move on to Drogheda United UCD, Graham, in terms of Finn Harps and their resilience, obviously, as we've said at the start of the season, it was going to be a tough one for them in terms of the amount of change and the amount of players they've had to bring in. In terms of where they're at, do you think Ollie Horgan's going to be relatively happy?
I would be, yeah. There's a togetherness about them that he managed to encapsulate every year. There's a big word for you there. I threw that one in just to for Ed.
Spell
Was it word of the day here on the desk?
We're not playing Scrabble, Graham.
I know, yeah, that's Wordle. I'm got into Wordle. So yeah, he just manages to keep them together and get them going. And in fairness to them, it's a great result up there. It's a great goal, actually. Conley scores. I seen the clip of it back, Jordan, when I was watching the game, and it's a wonderful goal he scores. But they just seem to have a togetherness and a doggedness about them that they pull out results, and it actually makes for an interesting bottom half of the table, because then Drogheda go and beat UCD really well, and Drogheda had a spell against Rovers in the game where they were good and got it back to 2-1. UCD have had some good results as well, and some good little performances here and there in terms of sporadic parts of the game. So it's going to be tight down the bottom, but I think it's also going to be tight at the top as well, when you can see all the teams taking points off each other as well, Raf.
Yeah, as you said, Drogheda got a victory there, 4-2 over UCD.
Segued into that for you, Raf.
Segue, there's another good word, and encapsulated, and we're going to bring that word back by Chris Lyons' brace. So we're just going to listen to Kevin Doherty first, because obviously as Drogheda manager, they were coming in as the only team with no points going into match week 4. So it's a huge boost for them. But here's what he had to say to LOI TV afterwards.
Look, as you say, first win. It's only our third game, so it's not like we've been waiting a long time. We played our first game this time last week, so no, it was a good way. It was great. The goals we got was really good. Of course, I'm disappointed with the manner of the 2 goals. Sort of continues a little bit from the other 2 games where I was really disappointed with the goal to concede. But look, that's just the negative side of it. Focus on the positives for now. We learn off that side, but some excellent goals, some excellent performances. Crowd were brilliant. It was a great night to get your first win. Was it a coincidence that I think all of the goals were created down the right hand side? Well, obviously not. Like, again, a lot of the time, and to be fair, they came down the right side because we had spoken about Kerrigan on the opposite side, so Evan wasn't really attacking as much. While Georgie had sort of free rein to go, we were sort of keeping Evan back a little bit, so that's probably where that came from. But no, the quality and fairness came in from Georgie, and then obviously the lads' movement was great and the finishing was great. So, all right, that was Drogheda United manager Kevin Doherty, and a much needed win. Ollie, as I said, given that they were coming into it as the only team without any points, it's vital for them, and obviously from how he was speaking after the game, it's kind of accentuating the positives, sort of in the way that Stephen Bradley did, but obviously in completely different circumstances, and kind of points them upwards up the table. Yeah, it's a huge 3 points for them. It's that first win is all important, and the longer it drags out, the more it can be that noose hanging around your neck. But and they probably would have expected to beat UCD at home. I think it was free for everyone's attendance on the night, so they had a full house, big crowd behind them, and they scored some really good goals, and they alluded to it there in the interview. There was some really good link up play, nice and patient, keeping the ball sit down that right hand side, and I said if Chris Lyons he's a quality striker, really good, got a couple of goals, good to see him up and running. Dean Williams as well, like a really good young player, getting goals there will just feed into his confidence. So a good night all around for him. To say the second goal was a brilliant finish by Liam Kerrigan, but an awful goal for Drogheda to concede. Colin McCabe was running out to the edge of his box, and the centre half heads it away. I don't know what he's doing out there, but if he's coming that far, you've got to let people know you're coming. So yeah, Kev will be disappointed with that. Like, can't be making those sort of mistakes, and against the better teams that they will get punished. But look, again, for them, I think it was just important to get those 3 points, get their season up and running, and look to the next game. They've got Sligo, another home game on Friday night, so they'll be looking to get more points from there. But yeah, big 3 points for them, and I think obviously Kev is relieved there and happy to get a few goals as well.
Yeah, as Ollie said there, Ed, in regards to that initiative for free entry, I mean, they had promised to do it, and that was the first real opportunity to I suppose give back to the fans after what has been a tough couple of years for people. And obviously you were at Richmond Park, and the atmosphere was amazing. I saw your kind of video clip that you put out on social media just from the stands, and there is a real buzz around the place, whether there's an initiative or not.
There is. The whole league is buzzing. Generally it sticks with like the teams who are competing for the title, but just maybe perhaps the Irish public are finally cutting on to the fact that going to a game of football at a stadium with people surrounded you is irrelevant of the actual quality of football sometimes, but the atmosphere and the occasion and the experience is what live football is all about. And you can see it in the crowds. There's young crowds coming through. A lot of female spectators now as well are coming in, and clubs are recognising that, and they're making the facilities a bit better now. Richmond Park, toilet facilities were maybe under pressure with the full house on Friday night, but there was plenty of food trucks and stuff around, which gives you that sort of, incentive for kids to come and get your chips at halftime and all that sort of thing. But Drogheda did a great thing by showing, opening the doors for free, but obviously it's not sustainable. And people were talking about the 20 quid prices for matches, but like it's really good value still. Like, if you look at the price of cinemas recently, at the moment, you're looking at the same price just to go and sit and see and watch a movie that you could watch at home on Netflix. So, the atmosphere is always start well at the start of the season. So let's hope it maintains. And, places like Finn Harps, Derry, especially going on away trips to those sort of places, it's a real experience. And it's something that more and more fans are starting to enjoy and to discover, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll try and make my way up to Finn Harps anyway. It's sort of my direction where I come from, except you have to just keep going further and further north. But
is Jackson's Hotel still open? Is it?
That I don't know.
Overnight there is always a good night when Rovers are in town. Anyway, I know that.
Yeah, but elsewhere anyway, Shelbourne lost 1-0 at home, or 1-0 home to Derry City. Patrick McElhenney with the winner with 17 minutes to go. So we'll just listen to Damien Duff first, because they are still having teething problems, and there are probably a few traits that have been kind of showing up over the last 4 games.
I thought a draw would have been a fair result. I thought defensively we were brilliant for 89 minutes of the game. He gave away a poor goal. Obviously a new system tonight. They adapted really well, defended really well, in a great shape. We were compact, so never really felt threatened. Obviously we give away a poor goal, and then with the ball offensively, I thought that was the real downside. I didn't think we looked after the ball well enough, especially in the second half.
I suppose in the 4 games you haven't scored in 3 of them, and using Jack Mullen just before half time hasn't helped, has it?
Listen, Jock, hopefully it's not a bad one. I think he's felt something in his hammy. Obviously before the game Dan Carr's not fit, and then lose Mark Coyle. Obviously he was the fulcrum of the team as well, I guess you could say. So listen, we finished with a patched up team, but that's not taking that away from the performance or anything like that. I said we're disappointed, but we move on.
Yeah, it looked like a very hard working team out there. Is you kind of instilling this hard work ethics in the team?
I tried to, but I don't think you should have to. They're professional footballers. This is their job.
It doesn't always work that way, though.
Listen, that's the demands. But listen, they're an unbelievable, honest group. I love them to bits. I honestly do. And yeah, they work hard every day. I've never faulted them for 1 minute since day one on working hard. Like I said, I've just told them there, we just need to take care of the ball better.
All right, that is Shelbourne manager Damien Duff after the 1-0 defeat at home to Derry City. Graham, the start of the season for Shelbourne, obviously it was a disappointing one at home to Pats, although it was obviously we know how good Pats are as a team, but there were question marks over the defence. They seem to have improved on that side in terms of getting clean sheets, but they're still not really getting the breaks at the other end.
Yeah, I think they missed Dan Carr as well on Friday night, which was a big loss for him, because he obviously has a bit of pace and is able to stretch defences and running behind and stuff. It's going to take time for them. I mean, 15 players out, 15 players in, and that chemistry and that togetherness doesn't just happen overnight. But he's obviously trying to get them in as much as he can and build that. I actually watched the game because I thought I was buying a season pass on League of Ireland TV, and it was just one game, and I thought I'll click in and watch all the other games, and then I had to pay for all them together as well. So I was like, no, that's not happening. So I ended up watching a lot of this game. And again, I agree with him. I thought defensively they were really strong. I thought they kept their out. They limited them to chances. I think McGonigal had one off a Brandon Kavanagh ball where it goes over the bar. And then they just sort of switch off them a set piece. It's the second phase of the set piece. You can see them all getting out of the box really well. And then 2 of them just stay in a little bit, get attracted with runners and catches their eye and they stay in. There's a header on goal. Webb should maybe push it out for a corner, another corner. And McElhenney follows up. There he just upped the tempo of the game around the 60-minute mark. I think Matty Smith came on and he sort of drove at them a little bit, and the tempo of their attack and play just went up a little bit, where they looked like they were in the ascendancy, and then the goal comes. But I agree a little bit with Damien that I don't think there was an awful lot in the game. I think Derry probably had the 2 clear-cut chances and took one of them, and that's probably the difference in the cutting edge of the pitch at the top end for them. So I understand what he's saying. He doesn't want to come away with moral victories neither, and he wants to try and get his team performing, and that they're not happy with just getting beaten 1-0, thinking, oh well, at least we played well. So he's constantly driving them, but like you said, it's going to take a while for the players to gel.
Kieran Harkin for Derry. Obviously Derry have made a great start to the season, Ollie, but how are they going to be impacted by that particular injury?
Yeah, he's a big player for them again. Lots of energy, gets around the park. He's influential in what they do, and again allowing other players around them to do the things that they can do. But look, Rory has built a really good squad there at the moment, and look, you still have Michael Duffy to come back in, and you're looking quality throughout. Maddie Smith comes on and so like McElhinney, Brandon Kavanagh, Boyce, Stommigan, like they really have quality throughout there. So I'm sure they'll be able to replace him. Obviously, he's a big loss, and I feel for him like he's a great lad too. And it's tough when you get those season-ending injuries. But like they're title contenders and up there for a reason because of the squad and the players they've brought in. So I'm sure they'll be able to replace him, and like they'll be obviously delighted with the start they've had, top of the league, 8 points. So they'll be looking to kick on again now, away to UCD on Friday. Another one they're probably looking at, we should be able to take 3 points there and then keep moving on, but I say it's a blow, but I'm sure they'll be able to bounce back and from that, and I say have the squad there to have players to come in and replace Kieran.
Yeah, and the final result of match week 4 was Sligo 0, Dundalk 0. Ed, I suppose very quickly on this one, the pitch was arguably the biggest talking point, and it was more in terms of how it impacted how both teams played.
Yeah, it was, and I've sort of, when I saw Stephen O'Donnell's comments, you're obviously sort of wondering, is he just looking for excuses there, going up and not coming away with 3 points? But apparently, the pitch up in Sligo is not in good condition at the moment, and it is probably understandable with the weather that has especially hit the west and the northwest over the past 3 or 4 weeks, that the pitch isn't up to standard, and it's a Liam Buckley team. They need a good pitch to play on, so it's hurting the home team probably more than anyone else. So I imagine it will be rectified and remedied over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. In the first division, before we get to the Women's National League, in the first division, Cove Ramblers 0, Treaty United 0, Galway United 2, Waterford 2, which was a really good game, and also there was a red card in that one. Wexford 2, Athlone 1, so 2 wins in a row now for Wexford. And then on Saturday, Longford Town 0, Cork City 0. Ollie, just very quickly on Wexford, I know before we hit record on this, you were chatting to me about them potentially having a fairly positive season.
Yeah. Just looking at the players involved in their squad, like Paul Hunt's a solid keeper, been around that division for a while. Larkin Fitzgerald, I think they're top 3. Aaron Dobbs, Dinny Corcoran, Conor Barry. They brought Conor Davis on, Aidan Friel. Decent players and decent squad. I think they did okay last year. Ian Ryan was building there. Brought another couple of players in this year, so I'm not saying they're going to get promoted or win it or anything, but I think they'll cause a few problems for team on it. They got heavily beaten the first night of the season, but bounced back with 2 wins now. So I don't think any team playing them will be taking anything for granted against them. And I could see them causing a few problems along the way this season.
Yeah, and it was a good weekend for the men's and women's teams down in Wexford, because Wexford Youths won 2-1 at Athlone in the opening weekend of the Women's National League. Cork City lost 3-0 at home to Galway. Peamount United beat the newcomers Sligo Rovers 6-0. DLR Waves beat Treaty United 5-0, and Shelbourne beat Bows 1-0 in a Dublin derby. So all the big 3 that are expected to challenge for the title, Ed, between Wexford, Peamount and Shells, reasonably good start for all of them. And maybe if we start with Peamount, obviously again, it was going to be a tough day for Sligo Rovers, given they're the newcomers. It's their the first time they're really on the scene, and then given a daunting task against a team that features the likes of Stephanie Roach and Anya O'Gorman, who both scored braces. It was always going to be a tough task, and they'll be moving on to maybe whatever comes next for them in terms of picking up points as the season goes on.
Yeah, as expected, I suppose. The strong teams will show their hand, and but I think with the league, 2 things, I suppose, that we saw last year, that the gap between top and bottom is narrowing quite considerably, and the quality from the regional teams especially is starting to come through. And it makes sense. It shows, I suppose, the value of the league as well is still there because of the importance that it still has in, I suppose, filling out the squad of Vera Pauw's international squad. That she's still very much reliant on home-based players to maybe not necessarily be in that first 11, even first 14 or so, but like in terms of the squad and the extended squad and the development of the young player, especially, you see that in places like Wexford, with like Ella Malloy coming through. That's the league is vital. The one disappointing thing I thought from the league opening up, the absence of a Shamrock Rovers team. We know it's obviously coming in the future, but it does add to the brand, and it's a reflection on both the league and the club, I suppose. You know, like, I don't know what, you know, how far advanced they were getting in, you know, even getting in this year, but like it's going to happen sooner rather than later, which is good to see, and I think it adds to the league's brand, and it will certainly add to the whole package, I suppose.
Yeah. Now Shelbourne, the champions, and it was one of the most dramatic final days at the end of last season, but they, as I said, beat Bohemians 1-0. Jonathan Higgins was down there for us, so here's his report.
Shelbourne got the defence of their Women's National League title off to the perfect start with a hard-fought victory over Bohemians. The game took place in sunny conditions at Tolka Park and took on a typical opening day of the season encounter, with both teams showing slight signs of rustiness. Both defences were on top as the teams cancelled each other out in what was a stalemate encounter for large periods of the game. The only goal of the game came in the 75th minute when team captain Pearl Slattery headed home a Noel Murray corner, much to the joy and huge relief of the large crowd in situ. An ever-improving both sides can take reward from a largely impressive team performance, but it's Noel King's side who take the 3 points. Full-time at Tolka Park. Shelbourne 1, Bohemians 0.
So that was Jonathan Higgins, who was down to see Shelbourne beating Bohemians 1-0. Now, he was also chatting to the manager, Noel King, afterwards, and also the scorer of the winner, Pearl Slattery.
Noel, good start to the defence of your title. You know, hard fought, but important 3 points.
Great start, absolute. 3 points was the key. It has to be, you know. It was a tough match. Bohemians are well organised. The conditions were tough. A beautiful day. We have played better, there's no question about that. But we've got 3 points, clean sheet, first goal of the season, and that should help our morale and should start us on a bit of a flow, I hope. You never know though.
And whenever you needed a leader, talk about the leader, and you come through with a bullet header there.
Pearl, she done this last year, very same time apparently in the first match, and we were sort of expecting it. She's a gem, absolute gem, honestly.
And I suppose it just goes to show you a game where probably defence is slightly on top, maybe teams cancelling each other out, the importance of set pieces.
Well, that's the truth, yeah. In actual fact, well, I won't say nothing. Set pieces are crucial, both for and against. And the more time you spend on, the luckier you get sometimes.
A nice little array of attacking options, you know, some brilliant young talent as well coming through, you know.
Yeah. Coming off the bench was really exciting, you know. Gloria, Abby, really made an impression when they come on and sort of gave us a lift that we hadn't had. So full marks to them. They took that opportunity, and we'll see where it goes next week picking the team.
Yeah, I was going to say you might have a couple of selection dilemmas.
Yeah, we have a stronger squad now, I think. There's going to be huge competition for places. That puts pressure on the players, it puts pressure on the coaching staff, puts pressure on me to pick the team and make the changes, and that's not easy, I suppose, but everyone says it's a great way to be. I'll let you know at the end of the year.
I suppose it is kind of needed. You know, you have Sligo back in the league this year, so that's another round of games. Yeah. You'll have Europe as well to come as well. You are going to be stretched, like you're probably going to need it deep into your reservoirs.
Yeah, and that's the fact. So we have added to the group, and we'll be playing, you know, a couple of matches maybe midweek as well. Preparation for Europe will be different, and it's just great progress, you know. It takes it on another level, and also hopefully it makes a challenge to the players, which I know they want to be successful. They're a great bunch, as I said, and we'll see where it goes.
Lastly, just got to touch on the crowd here as well. I have to say, I found it heartwarming, the amount of a huge crowd firstly, but you know, young kids as well coming up getting autographs. Just a real buzz about football here.
It's like a proper football club, and it is a proper football club. It's a legendary club, and these are hopefully will become a legendary team. That's the challenge, but it's great to be involved.
Well, Pearl, I suppose the first things first, we've got to start. What a bullet of a header when your side needed it most.
Yeah, look, delighted to help the team. Obviously, that's what it's about, just getting 3 points today. I said to Rachel Kelly, an ex-teammate of mine, she saved me header in the first half, and I just thought, look, it was a great ball. We've done some work on corners and training, and I just popped out and seen it was coming from me. And I just, with any header, you just get it on target, hit it as hard as you can. So look, just delighted. Tough pre-season, 6-7 weeks, and we've always said as a team, it's so important to start well in your first game, and I mean 3 points and a clean sheet doesn't get any better.
And I suppose in a game where defences, I suppose predominantly were on top and maybe the teams cancel each other out, it just shows to show even at the highest level how important set pieces are.
Yeah, it is. And look, Bows are well set up. We knew from last year this was going to be a tough game. Sean sets his team up so well. They've brought in good players. They have a good squad, and it was pretty even. We probably had more of the chances, but Rachel, in fairness, had done really well in goal. And then, you're right, set pieces, we talk about it all the time in training. It's only when you look at it now, we've scored and got the 3 points from a set pieces. So important. But look, as I said, we're just delighted to win the first game.
Yeah, because it only seems like yesterday when those magical scenes were when you won the league here and everything that went with it. But it's back to the grind now as well. You know, you are the top dollar now. Everyone wants to get you back. It's going to be a different type of challenge this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, you were here that night. It was a special night here, but it's gone. And we're in a new season. We have that focus. And as you said, there's pressure that comes with being champions. And look, we've always found that Shell's teams just come up and always want to play well against us, and especially now that we're champions. But look, we'll enjoy that. We'll work hard. We'll always compete in any tournament, in any game, and that's all we want. And look, nothing will be different. We'll give it everything in every game. And you could see there, things probably weren't going as smoothly in the first half, but we still stuck together, kept going. We brought on substitutions, which is great, and we got the 3 points.
Yeah, you just on that as well. There's some quality on the bench now as well, and like Noel has a lot of different type of even attacking options as well. Glory come on there as well, a new signing as well. So there is the strength and depth which you probably need with all these games. Is there?
Yeah, absolutely. There's more games this season as well. With Sligo coming in, you have the Cup, you have Europe, just even league games. You know, it's great to have. Look, Gloria played with us in 2016. It's brilliant to have her back. You have Abby. You know, you have Aoife Kelly. There's so many there on the bench. Leah Diallo that come on and play their part. Kiva Keenan's coming back from an injury. She'd be like a new signing. You have Amanda McQuillan there that you're seeing. When Amanda got injured, we can just make that change easily, which is brilliant. So it helps. And look, Noel has a headache every week. Is what you want as a manager. And the 11, I always say, that go out, you know, keep your spot. And then the girls who come on, stake your claim. But look, to me, that's healthy. The squad's together. We're like a little family, so we'll keep going.
And just on that very, very quickly as well, there seems to be a conveyor belt of brilliant talent coming through as well. So Abby coming on there, I thought Jessa was brilliant in the middle of the pitch as well. It's you know, and you look in the crowd there as well, there's so many young kids, so many girls, they're out at half time, they're queuing up getting autographs as well. There's a real buzz about the game in general at the moment.
Yeah, I think you can see it around the game, around the country, especially in this league. Look at the crowd here today. It's only Sinead Taylor had said to me, you know, halfway through the first half, she said, what a crowd. And I said, it's unbelievable, it's brilliant. And as you said, you've likes it, you know, Abby Larkin there's coming through. We signed Aoife Kelly, Kate O'Dowd, Leah O'Leary, who's only a youngster as well. And then we've brought in the likes of Gemma, and we still have Taylor, White, Kiva. As I said, it's just good buzz. But we've a nice blend of youth and experience. And as I said, look, see all those young girls in the crowds. That's, you know, since last season and this year, it's just unbelievable, the crowds that we're getting to games. And look, long may it continue.
Absolutely. First win of Manny, no doubt.
Thanks, Emil. Thanks.
All right, so that is the Shelbourne manager and player, and also Bohemians' Pat Trahey, the assistant manager, was also chatting to Jonathan.
A good performance from your side, but I guess frustration is probably the strongest emotion after that.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because, you know, you work so hard for the whole game and, you know, you get nothing out of it. And it's a hard thing about elite football. You make one, not a mistake, you leave a player like Pearl exposed and she scores that header. I kind of got for the girls more, not as much us, because they're the ones that worked hard for the 90 odd minutes. I thought it was a good game. It was an entertaining game, big crowd, but yeah, they're very disappointed.
Not that it's probably scant consolation at the moment, but the defensive, I suppose the whole structure of your team was quite impressive. I thought you caught them off sides many times. I thought they might have had maybe edged the possession in the first half initially as well, but they didn't really create a lot of problems, aren't you?
Yeah, I thought we were really solid at the back. I thought Chloe Darien played in the 6 and the back 4 were really, really solid. And Rachel Kelly, the goalkeeper, was excellent. As you say, like they did have a lot of possession. They're a quality side. They're league champions. They're playing at home at Talga Park, but I thought we were really, really organised at the back. As you say, there wasn't any chances. Rachel made a really good side the first half, but we're happy with the performance, you know, and onwards. You know, we just had to keep moving on and onwards and upwards and all that. But we got 6-7 new players. We got to bed them in now, and they got to get used to the club and used to the way we play. But I'm really confident that we're going to have a good season.
Yeah, look, your club very much, you know, the growth rate is shooting up the last couple of years, in particular since you've come into the league as well. But there's more, you know, green shoots there as well. Well, like many teams will come here to the Champions and struggle. You guys put good performance. That's stuff to take forward for the rest of the season now.
Yeah, we've great foundations. The club, a Bohemian Football Club, with the underage section all the way through our 17s and 19s and the senior, and there's a great pathway now. Like you say, there's really positive things around the club. And teams will come to Talca Park, and teams will get beaten heavily. Teams will come and win, but I think Shelbourne are that good. We have to be proud of ourselves, because they're a top quality side. They're all over the park. Senior internationals, call me Stacky and all that, and Pearl obviously is quality. But we're happy. We're happy with the performance. Not happy with losing points, but sure, that's football.
You've met some, good attacking options up front as well. You sign in Sinead in particular. Looks like, I thought it was one of those moments where you read that and go, oh wow, that's a big statement as well. There's a lot of opportunities up there now as well.
Yeah, it's a lot. And Sinead was obviously Wexford last season, scored 9 last season. Didn't get regular game time, but she's a top player, and even in training, she's the real leader in the dressing room. She's our captain, and she's great around the place. Pushes the girls really hard. She's a serious threat. Kira Bates-Crosby from Wexford as well, in the centre of the park, done really well. Erica Burke, keeping her fit and getting her back in the pitch, we're really happy with her. She's a really good, strong player. But yeah, we're happy all over the place. But listen, it's competition. Everyone needs competition. As girls in the bench didn't get a run today, but they'll get that chance eventually.
And lastly, we've seen the home side here play in Talca, big crowd as well. Are you hoping for something similar when you get your games back in Dalymount now as well, that give an extra boost to your girls?
Yeah, and that's what Daniel Lambert, Chief Operating Officer, he was really great connection with us and our section. He's a great fella. He works really hard around the place. He wants to break the record for attendance at Women's National League game. And Daniel's a very passionate guy about football, and he's a Bow supporter. Also, he works for the club, but he reckons he's going to break the record. He's hoping to get a couple of thousand supporters into one of the games. Maybe, I don't know, maybe next week. But he's kind of aiming for Shelbourne, I think, on the 14th. I think it's May. But that's what he wants to do. He wants to get a big crowd in Dalymount, and hopefully he will.
Perfect. Well, best luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
All right, so that is Shelbourne versus Bohemians, and that was a 1-0. Now, before we go, lads, we were chatting about the Manchester derby off air, Ollie. Again, kind of looking at that game from an Irish perspective. Obviously, the last time we had an Irish player playing in it, I think it was way back in 2011, February. John O'Shea starting in that, Shea Given on the bench for Manchester City, but time has moved on, and also this is we're like 10 years now since the post-Fergie era, and it's the same problems we're talking about in Manchester United, and the gap to City is just growing.
Yeah, it's I'm a United fan. Unfortunately, it's hard to watch them at the moment, and some of the stuff it's unforgivable, really. And you're looking at it like they discussed it yesterday in depth after the match, but losing the game you can accept, but the way you lose, and it looked like they just down tools. I don't know, no belief in themselves, no belief in each other, and they're not a belief in the manager or the system or the way they're playing, or there's just something radically wrong there that needs to be rectified. And at the moment they're light years behind Man City and Liverpool. It's a huge gap to bridge. And I was saying there, I think it was the 35th minute, the game was stopped for medical assistance for one of the supporters, and you see Pep getting on the pitch and getting into his own players' ears, and I was thinking, City will do something on the back of this now, because he's watching the game unfold and he's had a chance now to actually talk to the players and give them more info, so that this could be trouble for United. They didn't score in the period up to half time, but the second half they took over, and it was just really, really poor from United. And some of the defending is, from supposedly top players, was so disappointing to watch, and said, it's a long road ahead for whoever comes in as manager. Has got a lot of problems to sort out there. And then you're saying there, the last 10 years since Fergie left, you're looking at Mourinho, probably one of the biggest names, and you think he'd be able to go in and sort it out. Hasn't been able to sort it out. They've gone from one manager to another, and still the same issues, same problems. So huge job on whoever's shoulders comes in to try and take that over, and say that it's a big bridge to gap to the Liverpools and Man Cities at the moment.
Yeah, there's definitely a lack of clarity from the top all the way down to the bottom of the club. That seems to be kind of the thing. And also, I suppose, Graham, you brought in words like encapsulates earlier on, and we look at Roy Keane, who probably needs a thesaurus at this stage when you think about the fact I think he's called them disgraceful previously. It was shameful yesterday. There's probably other words that need to be said, but like yourself looking at that and looking, I suppose, from a player's point of view, and I suppose the lack of pressing, the lack of an idea on the pitch, the lack of somebody there to kind of pull people together, that seems to be an obvious problem for them.
Lack of leadership and a lack of culture to implement that leadership is one we've spoken about previously. I can only us as players can only take the lead off what's above us, and I can only implement what I know the manager will back. So if I'm standing in a dressing room with Ollie and I say, Ollie, this is what we do, this is why we do it, and he questions it, I know the manager who come in is going to go, no, he's right, so let's go. And you need that sort of leadership to then transfer through the players, and the leadership group and will then roll with that and implement that to the rest of the squad. But like you said, Ollie's, you can see when you're an ex-footballer or whatever level you play at, and you watch a game and you see players not running, you're thinking that's the bit that actually hurts you as a professional footballer. You're looking at them going, there's ways to be beaten. You go out, and I'm not talking about, like, I know people talking about making tackles and that's not what I'm talking about, but just have a togetherness about you. The second goal, I think, and you were talking about Fred on the telly and talking about Maguire and the thing, but the distance between the midfield and the back line is just too big. As soon as the game gets turned over, you should be looking at your two defensive midfielders at least being in the 18-yard box at that particular time. And that's when you always measure a good defensive team, is the distances between the centre-back and the centre-forward. People complain about Liverpool playing a high line, but the distance between Van Dijk and the strikers are small, and that has to move up and down the pitch. And I don't think it does with United. I think the gaps are too big. People compared it to Liverpool sort of not being able to compete during the 90s and the 2000s after being so successful in the 80s. But the biggest difference for me is Liverpool weren't financially able to compete during those years. United have 4 of the top 5 highest earners in the Premier League, wages-wise. So that's where the difference is that they're still able to compete financially, but it's just not transmitting onto the football pitch. And it is worrying to see where they're going to go with it. But like you said, there's no clarity.
Yeah, and when we contrast it with Manchester City, and obviously, as I said, you mentioned money there. They have plenty of it, and they've spent where Pep Guardiola wants it. But the thing that they have clearly, Ollie, is this kind of idea. They went out, they looked for Pep Guardiola. That's who they wanted over the years, and it's worked out, obviously. And the club is structured in a way to get the best out of him, but also the squad that they have built. It's exactly what he has wanted.
Yeah, there is a plan there. Everyone's buying into it, players included, as I say. And back to the point I was saying earlier, when Pep goes on, he's telling the players they're going out and they're carrying that out to a T, and they're getting the results. And it's just, I say, it's night and day, City to United at the moment. It's, as you say, that was the plan for City. They had a plan, they've put it in place, and it's bearing fruits now. At United, there is no plan. It doesn't seem to be. It's just all over the place. But you say, look, I suppose when Pep came in, he was, they're a bit too open at the back, or they're this or they're that. He's rectified that. He's gradually put the blocks in place, got a keeper in, got Diaz at the back, injured, but Stones, loss of form, back in. You see what he's done with Sterling as well. Sterling was flying, then lost form. He was sitting out, come back in. He's back in amongst the goals, flying again. Pep just seems to be able to manage them and get the best out of them, but they're buying into it. There's a belief in what they're doing. There's a belief in the manager. There's a belief when they go on the pitch. Let's say every time they go on the pitch, they believe they can win the game, and they've got the information to go and win the game, and they know what they're doing. I say, flip that to the other side to United, as I say, it's just night and day, and there is no comparison at all. But look, fair play to City. People say, they have the money, they've bought this and that. And to an extent, yeah, they've got there, but it's just, it was a plan, and they've stuck to that plan, and they've carried it out, and look where they are now. And they're a joy to watch. They work their socks off as well as the stuff they do on the ball and the quality they have. You wouldn't see them standing around looking at players putting the ball in the net. They'd be making an effort anyway, because that's what Pep would demand, and they know when they go on the pitch, that's what's expected of me, and I'm going to give it.
Yeah, and I think from what we've just said there, Manchester United will go on and win the Champions League this season, a la Chelsea from 10 years ago. I think that's what I'm getting from it. But anyway,
back to what Graham was saying, like when we were at Drogheda, we know exactly under Paul Doolan what we were doing, and if you didn't do it, you'd be called out over it. Yeah. Not just Paul, but other players as well would be going, that's not acceptable, and it's just to say, United seem to be, every other week it's happening, you're going, Is
We used to laugh, Ollie, there'd be a bit of rain, and we used to say, "You'd want to get your studs on, lads," and they'd be like, "What?" And we go, "Put your studs on," and then the new lads would all go, "Nah, it's not that bad," and I go, "Put your studs on." Then Paul would come over in the warm up, and he'd be checking. You'd say, "Just put your heels up at the back," and he'd be checking to see who had the studs on, and then he'd say, "Look, get him out, get your studs," and I'd be saying, "We told you, we tried to give you a heads up here," So I understand it was. I could close my eyes to this day and see where every player on the pitch should have been when we look back at that squad, because we were that well drilled, and you just didn't step out of that. And without that, it doesn't look like you'd have that sort of design or plan of how they playing. A lot of his stuff is off the cuff.
Yeah, and plan is the operative word, because obviously we know the schedule that is coming up, and again, that's a segue there, Graham. So you set me up very nicely. So for Friday, there's UCD versus Derry City at the Bowl, Shelbourne hosting Dundalk at Talca Park, Drogheda United against Sligo Rovers, and then Shamrock Rovers versus Bohemians, and then Finn Harps versus St Patrick's Athletic. And then the first division, there is Treaty United against Longford Town, Waterford versus Wexford, Bray Wanderers versus Galway, Cork City versus Cove Ramblers, and in the Women's National League, Bohemians against Athlone, Sligo against DLR Waves, Treaty United against Cork City, Wexford Youths against Shelbourne, that's going to be a huge game, and then Galway against Peamount United, which brings us, I believe, to a close, lads. I think we've been chatting away for an hour there, so if you want to get a cup of tea, bit of food or whatever, I think now is the time where we're kind of freeing you. So Graham, Ollie and Ed, thanks a million for taking the time.
Cheers, Ron. Thank you.